Hockaday.
Here.
Storch.
Here.
Tolliver.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Vice President Mills Ransom.
Present.
Council President McCray.
Present.
We have a quorum.
The notice of requirement provided for the open public meeting law has been satisfied. Notice was properly given, and said notice having been transmitted to the Courier News and the Star Ledger on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018, as well as posting on the bulletin board in the city clerk's office. Clerk, are there any communications from the mayor?
Yes, from His Honor the Mayor, Adrian O'Matt has submitted the following nominees for Vice President from the City Council: Lois Colodny, Plainfield Alcohol Beverage Control Board; Carmencita Powell, Class 1 member of the Plainfield Planning Board; Hexie Williams, Plainfield Youth Commission; and Cynthia S. Blake for a qualified purchasing agent.
Council President? If the administration would like to pull out the second one, Carmencita Powell's, as a class member, just withdraw that from the agenda.
The other communications and petitions, we have none. The bills list and other financial documents have been sent to the council via email. Okay. The Citizens Budget Advisory Committee will present their comments and recommendations on the City 2018 Plainfield Introduced Budget. And I believe everybody has a copy.
Good evening, Council President McCray, members of the City Council, members of the administration. My name is Sadiq Elamine, 315 Summer Avenue. We have still got to identify. I'm the chair of the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee, and we're here to formally introduce and present to you our report. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the members of the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. They were a tremendously talented group of individuals. You did well in picking the people you did. We had a very harmonious working relationship. They're very detailed, and we had a good time going through the budget. And I also want to thank you for appointing us all to do this important work for the City of Plainfield. The 2018 Citizens Budget Advisory Committee team members would like to thank the City Council for giving us the opportunity to contribute to the continued progress of the City of Plainfield towards achieving one Plainfield, one future. Over the course of the 3 meetings, the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee conducted a detailed analysis of the proposed budget and questioned department heads regarding specific expenditures. The CBAC has made the determination that Mayor Mapp's administration, in partnership with the City Council, has produced tremendous results in stabilizing and managing the city's finances, as well as providing an increase in services. CBAC acknowledges that all municipal departments are using their appropriated funds effectively to better serve the City of Plainfield and its residents. We believe that the proposed budget demonstrates that the administration and the City Council have continued to stretch the taxpayers' dollars to the utmost degree without sacrificing the quality of their work. The majority of their goals set by departments were either reached or surpassed in fiscal year 2017. The remaining goals not fully achieved should continue to be addressed. It is the duty of all residents and taxpayers to ensure that our city stays on this course of progress and continues to serve the residents equitably and to the best of its ability. Mr. President, there's a couple of members that would like to also add some comments. Give the floor to them.
Sure, my name is Cleveland Burton, 1458 South End Parkway, Plainfield. A couple of comments about what we've done this year. It appeared typically that the feedback team was to do a line-by-line analysis of the budget. And I think we have successfully expanded the scope of that from a line-by-line analysis to asking questions in terms of possible cost reductions and other initiatives that could be taken. For example, we were looking at questions that we had asked were process management, looking at the processes of the organization, procurement, how is that handled, how can it be improved, issues like solar panels, solar energy, energy audits for buildings, looking at things like lease analysis, lease buyback analysis. And those were questions that I submitted to administration in terms of where we were on that. And to the benefit and to the to commend you, you've done most of those or a lot of those issues. So in the appendix, you'll see where I had issued questions, I got responses back from the administration, and we as CBAC issued our suggestions based on where you were in terms of that. I bring that up thinking that going into the next year, you can expand the scope beyond the budget line by line issue, have discussions with CBAC in terms of what are the possible cost reductions, what other initiatives can be taken to further reduce the budget, reduce our costs, maintain our costs. A couple of other issues was the budget line by line analysis. We determined that we had 7 people looking at lines and where there were obviously differences or variations, coming up with why the variations were there. And doing the department review, we're hearing basically some of the same issues. Why the variations either from the previous year or variations from the trend over the past 5 years. One of our recommendations was to include where you've identified variations between communications between department heads and administration, include documentation so that when we review it, we can understand why they're there. And that might help streamline the feedback process and also the review process. The other recommendation was, if you look in the appendix, we don't have to do that now, but we put together a table where we can calculate or identify or quantify some of the training issues. Because in many cases, the training seemed to be overstated relative to the past years or relative to the trends. So our recommendation was to put together a training schedule from the bottoms up view based on what courses are available in the department and maybe a quarterly objective of how many people are going to be attending that. That might give you a better feel of what your training budget is going to be and may free up adjustments that might have to be made downstream. The last issue is we've made a number of recommendations, and one recommendation that's not in there is providing a loop of feedback to CBAC in terms of what you thought of the recommendations, whether or not they're going to be implemented, just so that we have a feel going forward whether or not we're on the right track, as opposed to having it drop into a void. And then the other recommendation was to maintain feedback for the course of the year where we can get involved in perhaps quarterly reviews and also part of the decision process and help prepare the next feedback team, giving them a jumping off point. But I have to commend the City of Plainfield, the department heads. They've done a remarkable job of putting together their budget. We didn't see a lot of variations. We had questions, and those questions were answered very satisfactorily. Thank you.
My name is Elton Armati. Two of the things that I'd like to, I guess, focus on that we had come through with our findings, especially discussing with Director West, was that the achievement of over $6.4 million in surplus is something that we continually generate in this budget and then pass on to the next year. That's definitely good in terms of not increasing property taxes or the property tax burden on our residents in this city. Another big takeaway was another increase in Moody's municipal debt rating for long-term bond rating to A1. So I was very impressed with that. But continuing with the comment that my colleague Cleveland had mentioned about training and staff development, potential overstatement of the training and staff development budget lines was a recurring theme throughout the entire budget review, with the exception of information technology. Our recommendation was that all training and staff development spending should be set at $500 to $1,000 unless there's a history of using the money within the past 2 years or demonstrated need for it in the department's goals and objectives. But with that, all in all, I think it was a pretty good budget. Thank you.
I would like to thank the CBAC for their hard work. They did a great job. I read through this last night when you sent it to me. But we really do thank you because it's a very important job that you do for the city and you do it voluntarily. Anyone else have any comments? Ms. Tolliver?
Just want to thank you and commend you for the wonderful job you did. Be available next year.
Mr. Holiday?
No, I'd just like to thank the CBAC for its participation in this important effort. It's a lot of work. The budget, the pages is voluminous, so I know it took some late nights to get there, and that work is certainly appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Good?
Certainly appreciate the time and the effort that was put forth. I'm pretty sure it took a lot of your time in order for you to make your decisions effectively. And I have special thanks to Ms. Akers for not saying no. Thank you all for not saying no and willing to do the job. We thank you so much.
Councilwoman Williams?
I want to echo everyone else and just say thank you so much for giving of yourselves and your time to go through a pretty big budget book. So thanks again. Thank you, Mr. Harim, as well.
Mr. Storch?
Also, I do thank the members that are here and the ones that aren't. I'm just looking through the report now, but just from what I could quickly see, it looks like it was given a lot of thought. And I do hope that the members who participated will come back next year, because I think now that you've been through budget school in Plainfield, it's a heavy lift, right? You guys started from scratch. It's a very tough assignment, but now you know something, and I think it would be to the city's benefit if you came back, because then you could go a little deeper. Some of the things that you mentioned here, like the overtime costs, we've been struggling with that for years, and we would love, a bunch of, like a group of citizens to weigh in on it and give the council some input. We need it. So thank you.
I definitely would like to thank CPAC and thank my member Valerie Ellis, who first didn't want to do it, but and also I'd like to thank you for appreciating the work that the administration does.
Okay, Mr. Carlos Sanchez.
Yes, Council President, thank you so much. On behalf of the administration, we would also like to echo the same sentiments about the CBAC members. Throughout the process, we did notice that they gave us some valuable input. Great questions were coming back from the CBAC members. But more importantly, I think they were able to capture what the administration is looking to continue to do, which is improve the quality of life of all our residents while trying to maintain a stable budget. So thank you very much for the time that you guys put into it. Obviously, it was countless hours, and you guys deserve an applause today.
A public hearing on the fiscal year 2018 Plainfield municipal operating budget has been advertised for Monday, May 14, 2018, at which time the council may consider possible amendments and possible budget adoption. All right, we now come to
Council President, I just want to mention that unfortunately I'm going to be out of the country next week, and there's a very important meeting for the council, but I do promise that whatever input I have, I will share with you and the rest of the council in advance of the meeting, including any budget amendments that I suggest.
You got a cell phone?
I do, but I am going to be in Spain, and I do not think that the time difference is going to lend towards me participating by phone.
You can wake up early.
Okay, we now come to public comments. Will be limited to resolutions and ordinance being considered this evening. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes. The floor is now open. motion to close?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, we now come to consideration of public, second read, come to the public hearing, second reading, and final passage. Consideration of ordinance for adoption on second reading. MC 2018-09 through MC 2018-15 are scheduled for public hearings and second reading on May 14, 2018 as advertised. Are there any questions from the council on these ordinances?
Are you talking about? Yeah. Yes. This is the, it's not a question, it's a comment about the ordinance on the cap bank. So, I am going to vote no on this, but I do want to, next week, I'm not going to be here to vote no, but I oppose this, and I want to explain why. So, by state law, we're allowed to go only 2.5% above the current year's budget for this upcoming budget for 2018. And there is an exception to that, which is the cap bank exception, which allows us to go up to 3.5%. And I thought this administration has used this cap bank not to increase expenditure in the current year, but to have the possibility actually to add it to the cap so that we don't have to be limited to 2.5% in the next year or the year after. So I think, and I understand completely, and I support that we want to have a healthy surplus, but I also think, for now, in a limited way, I think that it behooves the council to consider using some of these funds for tax relief as well as surplus. I don't want us to take a big chunk out of our surplus, but by having a cap bank, it just increases the opportunity to increase the budget and increase the taxes in the following year or two. So I think turning this down basically closes that opportunity and limits us to 2.5% in the future. So I do oppose it.
I completely disagree with the councilman.
So,
Yeah, well, first off, there's a misstatement. This is an appropriation increase, which we haven't been using. It is purely going into the cap bank. The budget can only change if the council supports it. And just like last year, we had an $86 million appropriation level. We only came forward with a budget of $83 million. So the plan isn't to spend the money. It does give us flexibility should there be a need to raise the appropriation level. It has no impact on taxes unless we were to raise our budget to the full extent of the appropriation level, which we have not done. But should we need to raise the appropriation level, from a budget perspective, we would also have to find additional revenues. And that's a challenge. And right now, we haven't been doing that, and we've been managing surplus very closely. And we've been able to regenerate surplus in excess of $6 million for the last 4 years. And that's been going, and when I say 6.4, that's what we've been putting into the budget. And I wish we had more surplus, so that we could do everything desirable. But it's something that we take very seriously, and we pay a lot of attention to. And we have a major objective next year to raise it again, because we're going to need to do that. Otherwise, there are negative consequences if we can't find the revenue we need to balance the appropriations.
Thank you.
So I just want to respond. I agree with almost everything you said. I mean, it's kind of, I don't think we're disagreeing overall, but I think it gives us the opportunity to raise taxes beyond the 2.5% in a future year. And that's what I'm objecting to. I think we should be thinking about tax relief. I mean, I do appreciate that we've limited our increases, but when you add our increase to the school board increase and the county increase, the burden, and it goes on year after year, even though it's tracking inflation, there's a lot of people whose income do not track inflation. I think a lot of people in Plainfield. And I think we have to think of them more.
Okay. Are there any questions for resolutions A through F? Do we have a consensus to add to the agenda?
Yes.
No? We have consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any questions for resolutions G through K? Do we have a consensus to add them to the agenda?
Council President, I just want to note that H has been removed by the administration.
Council President, I just explain the rationale for that, just so I understand. Ms. Pyle, as a Class 1 member, does not require the advice and consent of the governing body. It is the mayor's designee. So just want to give an impression that Ms. Pyle isn't going to serve as a planning board member. Just there will be a notice filed with the city clerk and the board secretary of the planning board, and she will assume that position. Thank you.
And I want to commend the city administration for proposing to use the UEZ funds for promoting Plainfield as a place to do business. That's resolution K, so nice suggestion.
Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Will the corporate counsel please present his resolution?
Thank you, Council President. We have one item that is on the permanent agenda, and then two items which were discussed in the exec session. I'll start with item number L, which is the resolution authorizing a settlement in the workers' compensation matter of Eugene Golson versus the City of Plainfield in an amount not to exceed $33,291. This item was previously discussed in an executive session for the governing body, and we were able to settle this matter in the consensus previously given. So I'll continue. Two items that were discussed in executive session. The first is a resolution authorizing an additional appropriation to the law firm of Ruderman, Horn, and Esmeralda for labor counsel services. Is there consensus to that?
Is there consensus?
Yes.
Yeah.
And finally, the last item is a resolution authorizing settlement in the matter of Jeffrey Courtney versus the City of Plainfield in an amount not to exceed $450,000 to be paid solely by the Public Entity Joint Insurance Fund.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Council President. I have no further items.
Okay, will the Department of Administration and Finance please present their resolutions?
All right, Resolution M happens to be a request for authorization to enter into an agreement with T-Mobile. We have the opportunity to save anywhere ranging from $11,000 to in excess of $22,000 over the next couple of years by changing our cell phone bill.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes, consensus, but also.
Go this way first.
Yeah, so I think in the budget hearing. Oh, I thought you were pointing at me.
No, just hold on.
T-Mobile, right now we have, this is for overall for all the city phones, all these
That's
places.
correct, for 91 lines.
Verizon works very well. I've had problems, I've had T-Mobile for 17 years, and their service has not been A+. In certain areas of the city, they don't work well. And whenever you call into them, they always make you promises that they're working on their towers. They've been working on their towers since Sandy. So I just want you to take that into consideration that you get a lot of drop calls don't go through. So you always want to save money, but you want to save money that it's going to be good money spent and not bad. So I'm just giving you a little feedback that their service is not the best. Verizon, a lot of city employees that I've talked to haven't had any problems with their phones. But T-Mobile, they're a little shaky unless they've gotten better. But as I said, they've been working on their towers since Sandy.
Mr. Hockaday?
Yeah, T-Mobile's not my favorite, but, if it works, I'm fine with it. No additional commentary.
Mr. Good?
I'll just get my tin can string ready. So it'll probably be more reliable than T-Mobile. I did. Everyone heard me. Did you hear me?
Ms. Williams?
I have no comment, thank you.
Mr. Storch?
I want to commend the city for this. This is a great savings and probably better service, right? I think it will be. So I think at the budget hearing,
Savings, yes.
the question about is this savings in the budget? I think the answer is no, because we weren't sure of the number yet, but now we are. So this could either be tax relief or it'll go to surplus, correct?
It would not go to surplus for a whole year. So you would see that in the 2020 budget.
Yeah.
Council?
Well, I'm a proponent of just listening to people's services. So I'm listening to my colleagues yet again. I'm wondering if administration could.
Did a test? The administration
do something.
certainly conducted a test. There were
Yes.
several cell phones tested, to make sure, and then we've got several users. So it was a major item that we spent time researching to make sure that it was not only a financially good decision for the city, but that the service would be commensurate with that. We are also not entering into a long-term agreement. So,
Well, you have my support because I saved financially by switching from Verizon to T-Mobile with my service is great.
This is all getting personal, isn't it? But if I can ask you a question about, you said it's not long-term, but how long is it?
the contract in actuality is month to month.
Okay, it's month to month, good.
Do I have a consensus to put this on?
Yes.
Yes.
Item N is a request of council to ratify the agreement with the FMBA.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
Item O is a request for a lien redemption due to subsequent taxes paid in error.
Do I have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Item P is a request to cancel first half of 2018 taxes billed and refund the first quarter payment to an entity due to an exemption on Block 606, Lot 50.
Do I have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Item Q is a resolution requesting authorization from council for a refund due to a lien overpayment in the amount of $5,415.38 for Block 203, Lot 28.
Do I have a consensus?
Yes.
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 Resolution R is a request for a refund due to a homestead rebate mismatch, in the amount of $283.32.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Item S is a request of council for authorization for a refund due to a state tax appeal in the amount of $19,965, for a property located at 1024-34 South Avenue.
Do I have consensus?
Question. Can you describe what kind of property it is? I see that the old value and the new value, there's a difference of about $250,000. So just describe it.
I didn't drive by to take a real look, but it's an unused commercial piece of property. So they were able to go in and make the case that they're not getting, value for it. And through the state tax appeal, they were given an adjustment of $250,000 in assessment.
Is this the Sumo development?
Yes, it is.
Is this the long-awaited tax relief that they want before they move forward aggressively?
This is for the completed project on South Avenue. The project has been completed way before this tax appeal happened.
So this is separate from the other tax relief that, oh my God, they want to say one more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Item T is a request of council for authorization to apply and accept a grant from Union County, Department of Human Services, Division of Planning, for GAP funds in the amount of $68,000. And what that means is that we get, some administrative funding for the case management we provide, as well as provide additional rental, energy, emergency food, and case management services. So that's what the money gets used for.
Okay, do I have consensus?
Yes.
Will the Department of Public Affairs and Safety please present their resolution?
Good evening, Council President, members of council. Item U, can't hear me?
I can hear you.
I'll say it again. Good evening, Council President, members of council. Item U is a resolution for purchase e-ticketing for police vehicles as well as parking authority handhelds. Currently, they issue handwritten tickets. They've been doing that for years. It's kind of outdated. E-ticketing will allow officers and parking bureau to issue tickets electronically. It'll print out receipts, be able to go to the cars, and it'll eliminate the time needed and errors that unfortunately have been caused with handwritten tickets. It also will help with the court in terms of storage, and there'll be less storage to be electronically for the courts in the state system.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
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 Item V is, that's a purchase of a breathing apparatus air machine from a fire department for a grant, in addition to some matching funds. Basically, it refills our breathing apparatus bottles when they run out. It's within NFPA standards. It's something they do as opposed to bring it outside to another entity to do it. We do it right here, fire division headquarters.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Will the Department of Public Works and Urban Development please present their resolutions?
Mr. Council President, members of council, this is Resolution W, resolution authorizing approval for street opening at 201 West 2nd Street.
Excuse me, can you speak into the mic, please?
This is Resolution W, resolution authorizing the approval for street opening, 201 West 2nd Street by PNC Bank, in accordance with the City of Plainfield under a 5-year moratorium.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
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 One comment, President.
Good.
Just make sure, I know a lot of street opening, we had said before that they have to put the road back the way that it was, because East 2nd Street hasn't been long been paved. Sometimes it's not even, so just as long as it's that the way it was.
Yes, Councilman, we'll monitor this one. Resolution X, resolution authorizing approval for street opening, okay, 1201 East 7th Street by Santos Landscaping, this is under a 5-year moratorium.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
Resolution Y, resolution amending, resolution 069-18, approving qualified vendors and service providers in accordance with Plainfield Municipal Code. This is an additional group to a list of vendors, okay, for redevelopment, planning, etc.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
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 Resolution Z, resolution authorizing the release of performance guarantee associated with construction of an automobile service station and Dunkin' Donuts at 190-98 Terrell Road.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
Council President, I can refer to AC and go back to AA and AB, because that would be on that kind of comment. Resolution AC, resolution authorizing approval to issue a refund for property escrow in the amount of $2,000 for 4 properties.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
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 Thank you, Mr. Council President, I'll refer to that now for the rest of it.
Good evening. For resolution AA, resolution authorizing the planning board to conduct an area in need of redevelopment investigation of those portions of block 236, 239, 240, 241, and 242 that front on West Front Street with addresses between 400-524 and 401-515 West Front Street to determine whether the planning board finds that the properties satisfy the local redevelopment and housing law in need of criteria and should be declared in need of redevelopment. And if so, commence with the preparation of a redevelopment plan.
Do you have consensus?
Question? Or comment more. I see that most of these, the addresses here are in the 4th Ward, which we know does need a lot of attention, and many residents have felt that the 4th Ward has been underserved. So I am optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that the administration has put energy forth to look at some areas in the 4th Ward. Of course, I'm cautious because, there are people there, we have to be responsible with whoever is there existing to make sure that they are made a part of the redevelopment. But this is something that I would support because I want to see that more attention in the 4th Ward, and I'm glad that we're doing that. So.
Great. And there's a non-condemnation clause in the resolution, so that helps with existing property owners.
Okay. Do you have consensus?
Question. What's on these properties now, this 451
Carlos,
I can answer that. So right now, one of the main properties that we are looking to study is owned by the city of Plainfield. We became owners through foreclosure recently, and it's an empty lot right now. So in order for us to be able to do the study, instead of doing a study just on one site so that we can avoid a spot redevelopment, which is is problematic, we decided to expand the area a little bit more to study to see if they qualify to be declared in need of redevelopment. That is the first step that we do in the redevelopment law, to be able to begin marketing those properties and have meaningful conversations with investors and potential developers for that area.
So there is no plan yet?
No. No. The first step is to declare the area before we can even entertain having or beginning to entertain a plan. So that's the first step. Once we declare the area, then we can begin to formulate what type of plan we want it right for the entire area that we just declared.
Thank you.
I have a comment. Most of these streets are very close to our downtown, so during the planning phase, I think it would be good to consider, we want to revitalize downtown, so would you consider what you're going to potentially, what type of developers you're going to go after to put whatever in those areas to offset downtown?
Absolutely, Councilwoman, and there is really no secret that this is continuous in the progress of the TOD West, which we have a redevelopment plan and is hopefully calling for mixed-use development. And this is just a half a block really, so this is continuing that progress. So most likely we will be entertaining, a redevelopment plan that calls for more mixed use and attract more retail on that side, improving those properties that are existing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it sounds very promising. Where is this area in relation to the Marinos redevelopment?
So in relation to the Marinos redevelopment, this is approximate 2.5, 3 blocks before the Marinos. So it's right between the TOD West, which is Madison and West Front, and the Marinos Drive. It's right between the two areas.
It's closer to downtown.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the next resolution is AB, a resolution authorizing the planning board to conduct an area needed redevelopment investigation of blocks 305 and 306, and those portions of block 307 as identified herein with addresses between 412-442 Cottage Place and 408-442 Richmond Street, and then 300 to 438 East 3rd Street, 300 to 324 Richmond Street, 301 to 437 Cottage Place, and 301-309 Roosevelt Avenue and 214-226 Richmond Street, and 301-435 East 3rd Street, 201 to 225 Roosevelt Avenue, and 300 to 336 East 2nd Street to determine whether the planning board finds that the property satisfy the local redevelopment and housing law and need criteria and should be declared in need of redevelopment. And you should have a map associated with this resolution, so it's a pretty large redevelopment area that we're looking at for this particular area.
We do that.
Okay. You don't have a map?
We do have
It is
that.
attached to it.
Yeah,
Attached to the resolution.
Okay. But he's got it printed out, but it's on your surface.
Thank you.
Do you have consensus?
Yeah.
Yes, just a comment. So now that we've proved to the development community that Plainfield is worthwhile as an investment, it took us some doing to get there, but this administration and this planning board really made it happen. So I want to express my gratitude to those folks, Carlos Sanchez, of course, and Ron Scott Bays in the back, the chairman of the planning board. So it's been a real teamwork approach. And I think it goes with the other resolution where we're putting TV spots to really advertise that we're open for business. And these studies are much more ambitious in size than what we've done in the past. And I think that's a sign that we're moving forward. So thank you.
Okay, will the administration please present their ordinance submitted for consideration?
Yes, Council President, NC 2018-16 is the resolution to adopt salaries and wages for the Byron Mutual Benevolent Association as per the contract negotiation that was reached.
Do you have consensus to add this to the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
MC 2018-17 is just an ordinance authorizing the sale of a few of the properties that are underutilized from the city. And actually, there's 2 properties that are on the list.
Do you have consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
And MC 2018-18 is an ordinance requesting jurisdiction Title 39 for the police department to be able to enforce on a new parking lot that will be built at 700-712 West 3rd Street.
Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Okay, citizens' participation. Citizens are welcome to address the council on any governmental item of concern to them, whether or not it is scheduled on the agenda above. During this portion of the agenda, a total of 60 minutes has been allocated for all public comments to be presented. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium, and give your name and address to the clerk for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of any time single speakers allowed, will be limited to 5 minutes. Large groups are urged to select someone to represent them. The floor is now open.
Thank you. Johnny Pritchard, formerly of 723 Arlington Avenue, Plainfield, now 42-44 West Holly Street, Cranford. Several things I'd like to bring to the attention of the City Council. This coming, later this month, we'll have Memorial Day, and we'll be thinking about those who are serving our country. We should have backed our men during the war in Vietnam. Plainfield lost 16 men during that war. 16 men. And those who returned, they were spat upon, called Nazis, murderers, baby killers. I'd like to see that word Nazi retired once and for all. It's just as bad as that other word, of course, which I will not use.
Thank you.
And remember this, the poor brave soldier ne'er despised, nor count him as a stranger. Remember, he's his country's stay in day and hour of danger. And secondly, We need to reactivate Muhlenberg Hospital. We need to reactivate a medical center here in Plainfield to serve the community's needs. What if there's another 9/11 attack? Let's not forget that on September 11, 2001, nearly 3,000 people have been slaughtered like hogs in a pen by that attack. If we have another attack, we'll need that hospital and many others very, very badly. So, the sooner we activate Muhlenberg, the better off we all would be. Don't make myself clear. Seeing no one else for public comment, we have a motion to close public comment. So moved. All in favor? Aye. We have a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.